Hey everybody, John here, obviously. And I want to talk about sex dolls and sex robots, or, what might become what we can reasonably think of as a sex robot. Now, as far as I'm concerned, these are not a terribly interesting thing in and of themselves. But what's interesting is the public talk, the rhetoric, and the circulating opinion surrounding these sex toys, which is almost universally negative, a female point of view, and comes in a bunch of different flavors, which I'm going to go through here so we can talk about it intelligently. The first argument against these things is, well, these sex robots or sex toys aren't going to iron your shirts, they're not going to cook your dinner, or they're not going to take care of you when you're old or when you're sick, or you got a twisted ankle and you can't. Well, these arguments are ridiculous on their face. That the sex robot isn't going to take care of you. Well, that's not why anybody buys it. And honestly, if you're replacing a female-woman-human relationship, you're doing it because you weren't going to get those things anyway. Like, are feminists now arguing that the value of having a woman in your life is that she's going to take care of you? Well, every modern man, as far as I know, irons their own shirts, cooks their own foods. So that's kind of a non-starter. Men know that they're disposable. But there's other arguments against it. One woman I saw online said that she was going to develop an AI, artificial intelligence, for use in sex robots, such that the sex robots would refuse to have a sexual interaction with an incel, an involuntary celibate, a guy who just can't get no lovin'. Now, this is absurd. This is just stupid. The woman making this argument isn't developing AIs to begin with, and if she was, she wouldn't be online going, I'm going to stop it from doing the thing it's supposed to do. What you're going to do is manufacture a product that is defective by design. Yeah, good for you. You're not going to sell any. But I've also heard arguments made in media, mainstream reporting, talking about sex dolls and how the AI or the control systems are vulnerable to either glitches in the software or vulnerable to hacking that would turn the sex robot into a murder machine. That your sex doll is going to get hacked and then it's going to kill you or perhaps horribly injure you in some way. That's just, the level of projection of the insecurity of the people writing those articles is astonishing. But universally, all of the arguments against these, which are condemning, include the part where the men who buy these sex dolls, or the men who use them, the consumers, the customers, are, as men, failures. They're inadequate. They don't measure up. They're not 6 feet tall. They don't meet women's hypergamous checklist. Man up. Go get yourself a better job. Go get yourself more money. Go get yourself more muscles. Go get yourself more social status. Because only then will you measure up to the expectations and be a real man. And if you just go buy a sex doll, you're a failure. You're worthless. You're a man-child. You're to be scorned. And the scorn is blistering. It's like, it's Winston Churchill's view of the elephant. I like to look at it, but I wouldn't want to own one. But the absolute blistering hatred and abuse heaped on the men who either buy or are potential buyers for this product is shocking. And it leads me into the next reason for men to buy these sex dolls. It's not that they, we look at these guys as like they're failures and they can't attract a woman. Well, what if that perception, that public talk, that you're a loser and you're a and you're a man-child and you're a boy and grew up and all that nasty, vicious abuse, the people fielding that abuse are, I think, a minority, but they have an inordinately loud voice. They have a far bigger impact on the social discourse than their popularity would suggest otherwise. And so from the perception of the male customer base, the potential customer base for these products, these elaborate sex toys, what happens when they start viewing the category women as equivalent to that torrent of abuse? Men are treated with scorn. These women are malevolent, they're vicious, they're cruel. And remember that the product being bought is being bought to satisfy a physical need and a psychological need for some kind of sense of companionship. It's not a real companion because it's not going to talk to you except maybe in a limited capacity as sort of a chat bot. But it's filling that psychological need. And when you see this argument, this scorn and hatred heaped on guys who are trying to fill that need, you're okay. The psychological viewpoint that scorn comes from is repugnant. And the guys who might consider buying these are going to start looking at the category women as pure encapsulation of viciousness, abuse, and nastiness. You're going to drive more people away from real person relationships. But worse than that, remember that the sex doll is a replacement. It's a substitute for a human interaction, well, a human psychological and sexual interaction. It's just a stand-in for the actual thing. But what happens if the psychology of the consumer base of sex robots changes, or sex dolls changes, such that women become so repugnant, so vicious, that they don't even, these guys buying or considering buying sex dolls, don't even want to have a substitute. They're like, yeah, I can do without. I don't want this idealized, perfect, fantasy of a woman, because the thing it's a fantasy of is a horrible thing, right? Like vicious, nasty, abusive, hate-filled, just horrible and repulsive. Well, even an idealized version of that I don't want. So what happens when the market dries up for these products because men don't want to replace that human relationship at all? Well, then the people screaming and crying and hurling abuse about sex robots are really going to be, screwed. Anyway, thanks very much. Wait, there's one more thing. And there's one more thing. All of that I just said was what I wanted to record yesterday. And then I went online and I looked at the actual websites selling these elaborate sex toys, sex dolls, sex robots. I mean, they're pretty simplistic in terms of their interaction. It's not much more than what a chatbot would do, online, a chatbot. And they've got, this idealized, hyper-sexualized female simulating physique. But there's a little thing that I noticed when I went and looked at a whole bunch of sex robots online, is that the faces are not adult faces. And I haven't heard anybody talk about this yet. Why are the faces of sex dolls being sold, most of them, they're child faces? It's got an adult body, or, teenage body, we presume adult, but the face is a little baby child face. What's going on? Now, I've seen whenever news talks about sex dolls, they'll present one that's like they'll show its face and it's yapping and the mouth goes bah, 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 while it's talking. And there was a comedian, went on Joe Rogan, I can't remember what her name was, but she had a sex robot or a sex doll that was exactly simulating what she looked like. And she's an adult. She's, I guess, in her late 30s or early 40s. It had an adult face. So when the mainstream talks about these things, we see the adult face. But when you go on the sex robot, sex doll websites, 90% of them have little baby child faces, and it's disturbing. What the hell's going on? I don't know what the answer to that is. Please, someone say something in the comments. Is there like this giant market for pedophile products that nobody's talking about? Who's buying these things with the baby faces? Anyway, thanks for watching, and as always, have a lovely day.